Maximize your job. Don't like, oh, I'm going to coast at work so that I can build my side hustle. Oh, that's dumb. Why don't you max work? They're giving you the money and then you max outside anyway, and you still stay fulfilled anyway. I traveled more last year than I ever have. I made more outside of work than I ever had. I also made more inside of work than I ever have. There's no reason why you can't have all three if you have clarity around where you're going.
Yes, sir. We're live. Tobi, what's going on, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Great. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Skill Hack Coffee Chat, a podcast where we learn from interesting founders and leaders with no filter. Here, you will get timeless advice on business, tech, and leadership to springboard your career and find happiness doing your life's work. Today, our guest is Tobi Oluwole. He's a Nigerian Canadian entrepreneur, passionate about helping people achieve fulfillment in their everyday lives. He is the co-founder of 3 Skills, a company whose mission it is to create the world's most employable candidates. Tobi is also a content creator, startup advisor, and coach. In his free time, he loves spending time with his family and friends, watching soccer and traveling. What's up, Tobi? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to see your face.
Yeah, good to have you on the podcast. We're excited to have you. So let's get started. And so we can understand your story a bit more. Give us a high-level overview of your career till date.
So, I studied business at school. I don't remember much, but it was a good time, and basically got to meet a lot of people. And every year in school, I would start a new side hustle. So, flipping iPhones, hoverboards, whatever I could find for me to do, I would basically do, and I would make sure to create these businesses from scratch. So in 2015, I was selling hoverboards. I started to make quite a bit of money, and I learned how to market. I learned, how to sell, and I sold somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 worth of hoverboards. And I put it on my resume. And this founder was like, "Listen, if you can sell hoverboards, you can sell technology." And I was like, "Listen, if you pay me, I'll show up." So I got my first gig as a salesperson. And I essentially was an account executive at a tech company. And that's how I got into tech sales. Didn't really know what it was. Did that for about 4 years. And eventually I realized it's either I wasn't a good tech salesperson or I wasn't working for good companies, because they either kept getting shut down or laid off or doing layoffs. And I wasn't hitting my quota. So I decided that, you know what, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Let me apply to Shopify for the 7th time in 2020. Which I did, and I essentially landed a job as a merchant success manager at Shopify. Did that for 18 months, got to talk to so many interesting merchants and learn how they actually do what they do, making millions, like these young guys. And so I did that for a couple months, or for 18 months, and then I got approached to do sales leadership, which I like because I'm not the one selling. So I love people. I asked them to double my salary or else I wasn't coming. So, they gave me a really good offer, and I decided to jump in January of 2022. So that's pretty much what I've been doing for the past, almost 16 months.
Nice. Talk about your business, 3 Skills. What do you guys do and how do you guys do it?
Yeah, so 3 Skills really was born out of, my sister struggled to get jobs. So I decided to step in and help her get a job in 2018. And my sister is very, very smart, self-taught in Korean, 11.8 GPA out of 12. And for some reason, she couldn't get a job. And that was when I realized, hey, there's a gap for people. So I helped, my sister, then I helped my brother, my sister's friend, my wife's friend. And eventually someone was like, people pay for this. Like, no way. So I did a free workshop. 30 people came. And at the end, I was like, listen, we're going to build a boot camp. It's going to be $250. It's going to be for, pretty much 6 hours straight. Oh my goodness. Give me 1 second. So it's going to be $250. It's going to be for, 6 straight hours. And we're going to teach you everything about job hunting. And basically I did that, and 20 of the 30 people signed up and paid. And we just started teaching people how to really communicate their value to employers, right? So we started with international students because that's where we were. And then after about 1.5 years, we actually started giving away all that content for free. And we moved up market a little and started helping people transition careers, because we realized most people, just like we did, stumble into their first career and then just one day end up in some place that they never thought they'd end up in, making something that they never wanted to make, right? And so we decided that we were going to coach people in a 6-week boot camp, how to transition careers. So we did that from January 2021 all the way till we just had our last cohort recently. And now I think we'll probably make another pivot and start finding a new way for this environment, right? So during that environment, everybody was hiring, jobs flowing everywhere, 400K tech packages, right? Like it was a completely different environment. And I always believe in building a business for the environment it's in, right? So we're essentially going back to the drawing board. We're very nimble, we're very lean, so it's easy for us to, whip up new programs. But I believe in creating super employable people, because then you don't need any other partnership. You just, I remember in 2022, 2021, we had a 91% success rate. We didn't have a single partnership. It was just people coming out, dominating interviews, dominating, the market, and landing jobs. So whatever we can do that helps people continue to earn more and live happier, that's what we build.
So what exactly were you guys doing, or are you guys doing with these candidates that make them more employable? What are the gaps that they have, and what does your program take them through to help them actually overcome these gaps?
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 major gaps, especially when you're trying to transition careers. The first is the knowledge gap, right? So we had people coming in like, I've never heard of customer success. I've never heard of Shopify. I've never heard of these things. Now, you only reach for the highest branch you can see. Biggest gap is the knowledge gap. If I don't know it exists, I can't pursue it, right? So I remember we had this police officer join our program out of the Calgary Police Force. She's like, I just want to work at home and not like miss time with my kids. That's literally what they come in with. I want to join your program. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I want to go. I just want to be at home and not miss time. And we helped her get a customer success role, and then she transitioned into Salesforce by the end of the first year. But really, the first gap is the knowledge gap, exposing people to what exists in the world in terms of careers, right? You're not just, I call it the lead careers: lawyer, engineer, accountant, doctor, right?
That's the African parent's dream right there.
Yeah, for real. Like those are the only careers there's like so many other careers, right? I've seen chief happiness officer. I've seen onboarding specialists, right? All these roles. And so that's the first gap we close. The second gap we close is the confidence gap, right? No matter what happens in an interview, it is a transfer of confidence. It is you coming in confident, and then the interviewer being confident that you are going to do the job and not embarrass them, right? And so that's the other side, is making sure that there is this flow of confidence, that people are going in there. Yes, you know the job, you've done it before, but can you confidently communicate your value? Because interviews are a test of communication as well as skill, right? And then the final gap is the network gap, right? There's this whole thing around 80% of jobs get filled through professional networks, right? They're not even necessarily advertised online. The job I got at Shopify, that was my massive promotion, I didn't see a posting for it. I never submitted a resume for it, right? So it's understanding that you need people if you're going to make transitions. So one of the things we teach in week 2 is how do you build strategic relationships? They don't have to be friendships, and you don't have to do the networking thing, but how do you actually build strategic relationships so that people think of you when the role is opening up? Not, oh yeah, you're knocking on doors. No, someone should be able to say, oh yeah, this person is very strong in this. How do I get them into this role, right? And so those are the 3 gaps we teach through our program, and we just kind of weave it through the 6 weeks.
Dope. So from a summary perspective, what would you say the impact that you guys have had is since you guys started at 3 Skills?
I mean, massive in terms of like salaries, right? Like, the number of people that we have helped transition through our paid program is in like the hundreds. Like the other thing is like, we don't even have a way of accurately tracking this because it's our side hustle. It just kept growing, But last year alone, we trained something like 15,000 people through our free master classes. We had the people that came through our paid program. But every day I'll walk into, or I'll get a message from someone like, hey, I actually landed a job because of your LinkedIn content. So I don't even know how to track it.
Yeah. What are some interesting stories that you want to highlight, as far as, because you have all these crazy stories that I see people coming with these low salaries, low self-esteem, and in a very short time, like they've transitioned to making top dollar. Can you tell us some stories of maybe one or two people and share the numbers that you've seen and then what the change was that made them hit those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a few, but I remember last year there was a guy that was a waiter, and he was a waiter at, I think, Joey's, and basically, his confidence was like on the floor. It was actually his friend that connected me to him. It was like, hey, this guy needs some help, and so we worked together. And I think he landed some like 6 or 7 offers, which was like insane. And one of the offers he got was actually like a 6-figure offer at Salesforce, and he took it. So he sent me a message. He's like, bro, I just like quadrupled what I was making last year.
Quadrupled,
which I'm like, you go from waiter to like 6-figure. And he didn't just go like 6-figure. He was like crushing it because someone gave him a chance, And so he was exceeding his quota. He probably did almost 200% his first year in terms of attainment, right? And you're hitting accelerators and all that stuff. So there's that. One of the first people we ever helped, she just bought her first house out in Calgary, right? Which is crazy. She was working at a gym. We helped her get a job in real estate as a coordinator. And then she got into, she actually started a podcast and then pitched herself to CBC and essentially got job and now is a producer at CBC and has been doing that for the past like 2 or 3 years. So there's just been wild stories, right? Like I believe like transitions are amazing because sometimes as you grow up, the world tells you have to fit in a box, and that if you don't fit in a box, you can't make real progress. And so we have all these people that shouldn't fit in a box, or people that are in the wrong box that just keep building their careers until one day they retire. And it's sad to see, obviously, but I think the pandemic kind of accelerated people going like, hey, I don't even belong here.
So that was what happened to me during the pandemic. Yeah. I was in IT product management, and that's where I belong. But I knew I wanted more. And in that time, there was a chance to start SkillHat, because prior to starting SkillHat in the pandemic, when it was fully virtual, if you started a training program that was fully virtual, you'd have an actual office space. Where's your campus? You don't have a class? When can I come see you guys?
Yeah.
Narrative before, but then with the pandemic, even the biggest companies
went virtual, yeah.
Are virtual, right? So now if you offer a virtual training program, when the job is virtual, everything makes sense, right? So to your point, the pandemic really accelerated everyone rethinking what work really means and what's valuable to us, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think everyone's priorities came back to what it should always have been, which is family, time, right? Like health, not just like, oh my God, I'm going to build my life around my career. No, people are like, actually, I want to build my career around my life, and I think that changed the game for so many people, just waking up and going like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then there was boot camps like yours, like mine, that were like, hey, it's not like a software engineering boot camp, but it's a boot camp that can help you build a new career. And you can come in as ambiguous as you want and leave with as much clarity as you think you'll get, right? And that was the game changer for us. And I think that's why, we just kept making money and helping lives, or, it was perfectly positioned for that environment where waiters and nurses and teachers. I remember we had like so many teachers at some point. We had bankers. There was one point, it was like 40% of our cohorts were just bankers, just people that were like, I don't want to work at the bank, So we just like learned how to really help people get the fulfillment out of their careers, communicate their value. And lots of people just landed their remote jobs with their, high 5 or 6-figure incomes, and just enjoyed it.
I love it. And one of the things that helped you build this brand and build 3 skills to scale was LinkedIn, the influence that you created for yourself through LinkedIn. We'll talk about that in a bit, but let's maintain this subject of building your career around your life, right? So you recently started a podcast in a community called Paid in Full.
Yeah.
And that blew up instantly. I think, did you get like 10,000 subscribers in your first day?
I mean, it's kind of hard to track because we had like a whole bunch from LinkedIn, then a whole bunch via email, but we're at like 40,000 now, which is
in like 6 weeks, right? 7 weeks?
No, I think it's been about 8 weeks now, but literally by the end of the first 4 days, we had 20,000.
Amazing. So tell us about that. What does it mean to be paid in full?
I mean, it was just a concept. Like I was kind of rehashing, like, okay, last year was the best year of my life in terms of comp, in terms of fulfillment, in terms of business. Like, it was just one of those years, one for the books. And I was, in a hotel, just kind of taking a day to myself, writing down. And I kind of was trying to explain, like, how do I tell people that, like, you don't have to become an entrepreneur, but you also don't have to just rely on your paycheck. And you also don't have to be miserable. Like, I just kept playing with, like, different phrases, like fulfilled. I was trying to, like, find, and I was like, no, I just want people to get paid in full, and the full really represented fulfillment, so is paid in full. The equation that I teach is, it's one, maximizing your earnings from your job, right? Like, that's what actually made a huge difference. It allowed me to buy a home. It allowed me to, take vacations. It allowed me to, like, there's so many things that it allowed me to qualify for, and maximizing what I can make from work. And then the second thing is maximize your earnings outside of work. And that's not just like necessarily, starting a business, right? Or becoming an entrepreneur, but you can rent stuff out. You can do coaching, you can do courses, you can do brand deals. There's 1,000 people in the room. There's 1,000 different ways they can make money, right? And then the final thing is make sure that you are fulfilled the whole way through. If something is going to cost you more in peace than it is going to give you money, it's not worth it, right? I'm like, I turned down promotions at Shopify or opportunities to get promoted. Like, I don't want to do the work. That's not what I want to do. Like, well, are you sure you want to accelerate your career? I am accelerating my career by not taking something that is going to hurt my mental health or make me feel like I'm a failure every day, right? Like, I'm going to do what makes me feel fulfilled, right? So that's really where I feel like that's what I've built into that community is maximize your job. Don't, I'm going to coast at work so that I can build my side hustle. Oh, that's dumb. Why don't you max work? They're giving you the money and then you max outside anyway, and you still stay fulfilled anyway. I traveled more last year than I ever had. I made more outside of work than I ever had. I also made more inside of work than I ever have. There's no reason why you can't have all three if you have clarity around where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I preach this a lot. Just first of all, with regards to entrepreneurship and side hustles. So just a bit of a personal story about me. If not that I had a side hustle, for those who are listening who don't know myself more and what I do, I've been training people for tech skills. Specifically, I started with IT project management, IT business analysis, and now we do UX design and software development and product management. And when I first started, I was training on the side with a full-time job. And it was so important to have that side gig training because it was through that I bought my first house. So in Canada, to be able to afford a home, like the home you can afford is 4 times your income, right? So I think in that job, I was making $80,000 in my full-time job. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to buy a home that was worth like $400K. And I couldn't afford that because 8 times 4 is 36, right? It was like $360K home. Yeah. So my side gig where I was training, in that year, I think I made like $20,000 in that year on the side training. For me, first of all, like the first $100 you make on your own, not from a job, from like an idea, and then you sell it and someone pays you like, what? I made $100? And then I made $20,000 that year. I was the richest guy on planet Earth. I was richer than Bezos. But I combined that together and that 100K joint income from full-time and side hustle, that allowed me to buy a home worth $400K. About that, right? And so that was critical. In fact, I remember waiting till the last second. I was supposed to like get the deal approved at like 8 o'clock at night, otherwise it will die. And I got the bank to approve my side income as legitimate like 7:30. 30 minutes before the deal would die. It was crazy. But the crazy part is I bought that condo for $400K-ish. I ended up selling that condo for like close to $600,000 in less than 2 years. So I made an extra $200,000 in capital gains from that property, and I would never have been able to afford that property if not for my side hustle, right? And so if you read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it talks about just thinking about everything like a business, right? Even if you're not a full-time entrepreneur, think about how do you make your money work for you, right? Through investments, through real estate, through building content, building assets that make money outside of yourself, right? So what you're preaching as regards paid in full is a very important thing that we should all allude to and pay attention to and aspire to, even if you're in a full-time job. Because like you said, right, not everyone can be an entrepreneur, but everyone should be entrepreneurial in how we think through how we grow. So talk about yourself and how you get paid in full. What are your different income streams? And inspire us, what are some numbers that you're hitting as far as income from all the different streams and your full-time job?
Yeah, so I mean, LinkedIn powers everything, right? So in my job, I was able to kind of go from, I think my first job was like at Shopify was 80K base. And then I got a job that was a sales lead role at like 120K base. But then there was all this OTE that I could make by just creating high performing team. So
OTE meaning on target earnings, right?
On target earnings meaning like, the additional commission on top of it, right? And so I remember like there was one quarter, it was like last quarter, so Q1, where I did like $50,000 in like in commission in one quarter. And I mean, my brain, I was like, that was my entire salary
for a year,
like a couple years ago.
Quarter, that's wild.
And so that's what like making it at work really like makes a huge difference, there. So that was good. And from LinkedIn, there's like a bunch. There's brand deals. I consistently bring like high 4 or 5 figures a month like through brand deals. Then there's obviously like 3 skills. There's my LinkedIn coaching, which is pretty consistent as well. Then I do like advising for some startups. They put me on a stipend. Then I have like courses, right? Like if I find a problem, I usually will like build a solution, right? Like, and try to maximize that.
That's wild. So you just mentioned 6 sources of income. Like, how are you managing all this? How are you keeping yourself from not going crazy? How do you keep yourself organized? What systems are you using? Just in general, like, how is this even working? How do you have 6 streams of income?
I mean, what I did is I just incorporated and I put like 5 of them into one corporation, right? So you just pay all the taxes from one, put everything in one place. And I just use Stripe to invoice depending on what I'm doing. 3 Skills is its own entity, right? Like I have partners there. We have an accountant. We have someone that takes care of the taxes, the HST, all that stuff. That one, 3 Skills is the most structured of all of them because I have help there. The rest, I'm not that structured. If I'm going to be completely honest, like I try to stay on top of putting money away so I don't get in trouble in terms of tax and stuff like that. But honestly, it's finding opportunities, understanding how to create credibility, how to create trust. The systems that I use are very like as automated as I can possibly make them, right? So I have a media kit. I have an application to work with me, whether it's one-on-one coaching, whether it's a brand deal, whatever it is. I use, ConvertKit for my emails. I use Stripe for my invoices. I use Dubsado for like my contracts. So I do like using lots of tools to like automate as much as I can because I'm a little disorganized. I use Zapier to just connect everything, right? So it pings our Slack when we get a student, when we get an application, all of that stuff. So that was, it's always been a weakness of mine, right? Organization, focus for long periods of time. So when I get excited about something, I spend the first 2 weeks building all the systems I need so that when I get bored or complacent, the systems will carry the momentum, right? So that's pretty much how I've set it up. But yeah, like, we'll collect payment through Stripe, PayPal, Bill.com, right? Like depending on the platform the company is using, and we just put it all in one bank account in one corporation.
Yeah, I think to your point, when I asked how you're staying organized, you're mostly talking about like the outputs. So, how I collect payments and how I get invoices. I was even thinking about the inputs, right? So in order to even get a payment from somebody, you've had to build something that's exciting to them, right? So I was even more curious about like, if I have an idea, right? I'm already working full time. I already have a coaching thing, like not necessarily me, but anybody, right? How do I even like create that time to go build out a new product You just launched a new LinkedIn coaching program like last week or something, right? Top of everything. So, you know, the tools are critical as far as the process. The output is then receiving money and then delivering. But I'm thinking about the input. Like, how do you like think through and apportion time to build new things when you get excited about something? And what are some things that really help you be able to crack that out consistently?
Yeah, so I mean, I never start building without validation. That's like the first thing is, you know, every single thing that I own and that I built has been flagged to me through a conversation, through multiple conversations. And so the first thing is like, I don't have enough energy to build every idea that I have. But I do have energy when I can see, one, there will be impact because people are already asking for it. And then two, there will be revenue because then it's going to be worth my time, right? So, you know, I remember I was trying to launch a course recently. It only got like 60 or 70 people on the wait list. And then I built this other landing page for LinkedIn Revenue Accelerator, got 1,100 people on the wait list in like 7 days or something ridiculous like that. I immediately just stopped that one and just started building. I'm like, you just listen to the audience, right? Like one of my core things is, you know, I'm not that smart, right? I actually can't predict the future. Like smarter people than me have failed essentially, right? But the audience will always give me permission and like signal what I should be building, right? And then the other thing is if I can't make money off it, I'm not building it. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense. Why would I build something and I take my extra time to work on it if I'm not gonna make money off it, right? Yeah. And so it's like, I'm working towards freedom. Freedom, unfortunately, in this world requires money. So I'm going to build the things that people want that I can charge for, right? And if I decide to charge for something, then I usually will give something away for free for all the people that don't want to pay. Right? Which is fair because sometimes people don't want to pay. It's fine, right? Yeah. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't make money. So I serve and I collect, right? And it's important to kind of have that distinction for anything that I build. And the final thing is I know when to quit. I'm not like, you know, never quit, you know, giving up. I don't believe in all that. A lot of my businesses, if I'm like, oh, I'm tired or I don't think this is working anymore or people don't want to take it, I just shut it down. That's why I built so nimble, because why am I now spending energy trying to keep something alive that is just dying, right? And so with all of these things though, what I've learned is if I can validate something organically, I now have what I call a winner, right? If I validate it, I have a winner because one, I can make money off it organically, right? So I have multiple businesses that I've started and within a year gone to 100,000, right? And that's fine because I don't pay for ads. It's the greatest validation. So at any point in time, if I get stuck, right, leave my job, all I have to do is show it to more people. That's pretty much why I keep them. I just keep them in my back pocket, right? It's like, oh, the market is saturated. Not when there's 4 billion people online.
Exactly. And to that point, you subscribe to my mentality in life as well, which is sell first, build later. Right? Yeah. You're always looking to validate something before you spend energy building it. So for those of us who are watching, that's a lesson to come away with today. In launching a new business, think about how can you actually sell this thing before you build it. And the reason why it's so important to me and why I think you should do this all the time is if you want to sell a product, say you wanted to sell a t-shirt or you wanted to sell shoes online, right? The marketing material to sell those shoes is like the features of the shoes, the advantages, the benefits, the photo of it, you know, a flyer or a website. Whether or not you've actually manufactured that shoe or built it, the marketing material does not change. Yeah. So I can just go start selling it right now and then use that capital and that revenue to go build it. Worst case, if I try to sell something before I built it and it's not selling, I'm not seeing leads, I'm not seeing any kind of engagement, I'm not seeing any buzz, that's signal not to go ahead and build it, right? Exactly. But the average person will go the opposite direction, do market research and raise money and go build it and then go find customers. You find customers first. And then what those customers are saying they want is exactly what you built. So I've made videos about this. I'm gonna keep making videos about this because it's just not the natural intuitive thinking. People think linearly. Because one of my cousins, he just got laid off, unfortunately, from Amazon. He wants to start a consulting business around doing what he was doing at Amazon, which is selling cloud. He's like, I want to go raise money. I want to go hire a team, and then we'll go find clients. I'm like, no. Go get the clients first. Figure out what they need exactly. Obviously, you know some clients, but from there, you figure out the right team and all of that. So obviously, it's like you do a little bit in tandem. And you know, if you want to learn more about how to sell first and build later, check out Eric Ree's Lean Startup. Great book. And then he has a Udemy course on that. There's many ways to actually do it. There's landing page way, which is what you usually would do. There's just like cold calling and talking to people and just selling them on the spot, because people will give you their true feedback when you say, pay me. If you ask them, will you buy those? Say, yeah, well, I think I'll buy it maybe, but pay me now. It's like, oh, my uncle said this, or there's a better product that I like better. Now you have that information.
Yeah. And I think that's what I teach is there's only two times when you're right, when you're building anything, is when you have data or when you have dollars. So if you have dollars, like remember we were selling Project Pivot, we sold 30 grand worth of Project Pivot before we built the actual program. I was like, guys, we can build, right? And then with this one, I hadn't built anything and I hadn't sold anything, but there was 1,000 people on the wait list. I was like, okay, we can build, right? So if I got data or I got dollars, I'm like, yes, there's your green light to build lean.
That's definitely going on our reels, data or dollars before you start building. So just real quick, right? Every time I call you, you always talk about, I met this other guy last week. He made this million, this 100K in 2 days off this thing. What are some interesting stories of other people in your network that you've seen get paid in full? And I want to share these other stories because I don't want the audience to think that it's just Toby and Mo. These are principles that lots of other people are following, and they're not really that smart, or they're not much smarter than you. They're not geniuses. They're not Elon Musk or Jobs type people. So who are some other people in your network who are getting paid in full, and what numbers are they hitting right now with their side businesses and with their entrepreneurial initiatives?
Yeah, I mean, I meet all sorts of like really interesting people. There's one person that I know that coaches people on how to essentially overcome imposter syndrome, right? And they run like one of the most incredible businesses that I think I've ever seen, because everyone struggles with imposter syndrome, right? And so she has this, program. It runs, I think like 8 or 12 weeks. And she essentially just like coaches them. And she's one of the best coaches I think I've ever met. She's certified coach, top performer at like a huge startup before she even started this. But she is clearing hundreds of thousands of dollars with like maybe 2 people, it is like, I think in just the 4 months we worked together, she did like $100,000, right? And so it's cool to see normal people with like normal ideas on like a normal path, no ads, doing really incredible stuff. And now she's like really starting to scale because more and more people are just like coming like, hey, this is something I need to overcome, right? And it's cool to see that happening in that sense. And there's other people. I started working with this other person, and this person does 7 figures, so over $1 million, coaching companies like sales reps on how to sell as human beings instead of like robots. It's so cool.
So like $1 million a year on coaching. This is dope. How about the other person you told me about some people don't want to go the coaching route or the service route. Some want to build products or distribute products. There was somebody else you told me that was like, I think they were selling tea or something like that, and they made $1 million.
Oh my god! Yeah, she came out of Shopify. That's Sheena. Sheena is like she does tease tea. Sheena. She had the company for a while, and it was just kind of like slowly chugging along. And then she recently left Shopify. But her company was doing like $2 million selling teas, right?
So hold on, bro. She was working full time at Shopify.
Yeah,
and making millions on the side.
Yeah, and then she finally had to quit. So
she wasn't making $1 million at Shopify, was she?
The company touched 2 million before she quit. Like she quit after it touched 2 million. Like she didn't leave full time for it to touch 2 million. She left when it touched 2 million, which is why I'm like, I've seen these stories, right? Like there's another guy at Shopify. He runs Bush Bomb, and like I think they're doing well over $10 million now, right? But he was like at Shopify, building the company, got it into the million, and then eventually left it and just went insane. They just launched in like 900 Ulta Beauty stores like last month.
What do they sell?
Bush Balm is like creams and ointments for ingrown pubic hair mostly.
Got you. Really important problem to solve.
Yeah, very important. I mean, it's a problem you don't even know that other people are struggling with. But this guy is like cornered this space, and they were named like Ottawa's fastest growing business at some point, right? And he started as this little side hustle, made like maybe 20 or 30K the first year or something. I remember meeting him, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like he works there. There's another guy that was selling bath bombs, right? Like they're doing like they got like a massive Costco order. Like took them into the millions. Right?
What's a bath bomb? What's that?
It's like, how you have like bubble bath, but like this one, like you can throw it in the water and there's kind of like bubbles and like, it's essentially like bubble bath, but you can have like different scents and all this stuff. But crazy ideas, right? Like, and they worked full time. That's the thing. Like when I kept applying Shopify, I kept going like, I need to get in there because I keep seeing and hearing these stories of people working full time and building these incredible companies. And I'm like, it's so hard to believe I got to talk to these people. As soon as I got in, I started finding them. And I was like, book a 30-minute call with them. Some of them I only met once. But I'm like, how are you doing this? And they're like, oh, this is how I structure my day. This is how I think of hiring. This is how I run ads. This is what I think of. And I was just absorbing. I was like in an MBA for the past 3 years. And I was seeing all these people build it. Another guy just left Shopify. He's building his startup, which is like a product to help people get insight from customer interviews when they're launching a product, right? So you talk to a bunch of customers and it'll use AI to pull sentiment and go like, hey, like these are the important parts of this conversation.
That makes
Very
a
cool.
lot of sense. I think I spent too much resources doing that the manual way. If I share my screen right now, I have my analysts who talk to a bunch of hiring managers at EY and consulting companies when you want to hire our alumni at SkillHat. And I'll look at the spreadsheets and I'll look at the data and like I'll go list the recordings. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I throw it into AI and then just give me all the sentiments. What's your friend's company?
Insight 7.
Insight 7. So plug Insight 7. Use them for your
Insight 7 is incredible. All I'm doing is the Nigerian guy too, building.
Oh really? I gotta get him on. He's a Nigerian dude.
Yeah, Nigerian guy. He just raised money for it, so they're about to take it to the next level.
How much did they raise?
I don't even know. I had dinner with him like 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Yo, we got funded," and I'm like, "Let's go." So lots of cool companies, man.
I love it. I love that I asked you that question because I wasn't sure if to skip it, but I think these inspiring stories are so important for the audience to know that it's happening everywhere. Of course. Yeah. Only the upper echelon of people who are taking action are getting these results. So you got to take action, right? But being inspired is so key, like you always say, right? So if somebody has been inspired now and they want to take a few steps to go start making extra income and just get paid in full, what are some steps that everyone can take to get there?
The first is you got to go backwards. You actually have to understand who you are, right? Like at the core. Right. I just recently got exposed to human design, which is really, really cool. Like you can do the Enneagram, right? Do some sort of personality test and understand yourself because, listen, I'm one of the most disorganized people. The one time I tried to start a clothing line, I lost like 16 grand. I kept approving the wrong design. I'm like, approving the wrong design. They're sending me the design. I'm like, yeah, it looks good. I didn't even look at the dimensions, nothing, There are some businesses I shouldn't touch, like. And
so what happened with the t-shirts?
Bro, I had the t-shirts. I was giving them away for Christmas. Like I gave my family.
What was the challenge with the t-shirts is what I'm trying to say. Like what went wrong?
I didn't know what I was doing and I'm not optimized for details. There's detail required to run something at that scale and to actually get it right. How are the wrong designs being approved? I'm a big picture guy. So if I'm like, this is kind of what I want. I don't look at the details. I'm just like, which is why coaching is great. Very high level, very personal, right? And I also love talking to people, right? And so there's businesses that do not fit your lifestyle, your personality, the level of responsibility you have, right? Like you have, 2 kids and a family and you're working full time. Please don't go and spend $100 grand on vending machines right now to try to, this is not the time, bro. Like, don't waste, so you have to understand your risk level. You have to understand your responsibilities. You have to understand what am I willing to lose, your personality. So many people just dive in. Oh, I saw an Amazon FBA course, so now I'm doing Amazon FBA.
That should happen to me with stocks, man. Remember when like Reddit boys were going off on GameStop stocks? Yeah. I was like, yo, I can't, fear of missing out. I can't miss out. So I started just putting money in different stocks. Bro, I wouldn't even check it.
Yeah.
Money after like 3 months, I'm like, yo, what's low? What's Juno?
Yeah.
Which means all the money is gone. Cause like same thing, right? I'm more big picture, I'm very similar to you, right? So I'm more about leading teams, leading people, building process, building structure. I'm telling everyone right now, if you're not, don't invest in stocks unless you've invested first in education about stocks, right?
Yeah.
First of all, because I didn't do that. I was just gambling, right? Because it's like fear of missing out. GameStop is hot. Put the money in. Bro, I was buying stocks that were like $80 because it was going up. It was $40 yesterday, it's $80 today. But that stock was like $10 5 days ago. So why would I think I'm gonna buy it? It goes up to 100. I'm like, okay, it's cool, it's 100.
Yeah.
The next day it's like $12 again. And I bought it for $80. Also, I didn't know when to sell. So I knew nothing about this stuff. It wasn't my personality to be detail oriented, checking it every single minute, every single day. You know what I mean? And I don't talk to anybody. I'm just looking at numbers. I'm looking at data. I'm looking at company portfolios. I don't give a fuck about that. I want to talk to customers and build stuff, right? Anyway, so similar story with me, just doing stuff that wasn't for me with like trying to make money on the side with stocks. Even the marijuana stocks, like made a bunch of money on that, lost everything in like a short time, right? So that's the first thing, personality. So what else would they then do after they know that?
The other thing that I always get people to do that people think, I mean, nobody thinks it's a waste of time, but people always go, it's a little morbid, is I actually get people to write their own eulogy. I'm like, listen, I want to know what you want to be said about you at the end of your life. What do you, okay, I want to build a side hustle. Why?
What's a eulogy?
A eulogy is pretty much the speech that's given at your funeral.
Oh, okay.
So I want people to go like, okay, start with the end in mind. For me, I want to live a life where I'm super generous with my time, my money, and my energy, right? Which means I need time, I need money, and I need energy. And so to be able to write, I wrote my eulogy when I was like 21 or 22. This is at the end of my life. This is what I want my spouse, my kids, my community, my colleagues, and my friends to say about me. It's like 3 pages long. I read it around my birthday every year. And it allows me to stay super clear around, okay, I'll take these kinds of jobs. I won't take these kinds of jobs. I'll take these kinds of businesses. I won't take these kinds of businesses. And I can actually decide what I want to do based on the fact that I have a clear path. Most people start building a business. They're just like, it's like you throw someone in a random field and give them bricks. And they start like, what are you building? I don't know. Just laying bricks. Well, what is this? I don't know. I'm hoping to build a house. Like what? That's how most people build businesses in their careers. So I'm like, okay, why don't you actually understand what you want at the end of your life and then pick a business that matches your personality, your gift, right? There's an old Bible verse, your gift will make room for you. So why don't you pick something that is within your gift that aligns with the end goal that you want and start building that? Now you save yourself the heartache of failure. You save yourself the heartache of burnout, because a lot of times burnout comes from the fact that you're doing something you don't want to be doing and you have to keep doing it.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So
and you will start praying that your business doesn't get bigger, because as it gets bigger, you're doing more of the same thing.
Exactly. And I used to tell people some businesses will make you fail if they are successful. They will make you fail if they are successful. And that was the clothing line for me. The bigger it got, the more I was up at night. And I'm like, this is not why I'm working. I'm working so I can sleep more, So you have to optimize for what you're trying to build, right? And so that's really where I tell people to start. And then you want to go for, depending on who you are, the right opportunity to generate free traffic. You want to get free traffic, because one of the biggest things that kills people is the cost of customer acquisition. To get one customer, how much does it cost you? People start spending money on ads. Brother, you have nothing. Marketing only amplifies what is working or what is broken. If you have nothing, you are just amplifying that you have nothing. So you want to get customers as cheap as possible, and you want to validate what you're building before you start building it. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Oh, I want to sell cookies. Find some cookie lovers before you start making all this stuff and branding and this and that. right? I know someone that spent like $6,000 on a logo before. Like, have you made
$6,000 on a logo, bro?
Like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, I hired this designer to. I made 3Skills logo on my phone on an app that I found, and I put it on Eventbrite. Like, what are we talking about? You know? So I think it's important that you actually validate things. And then the last thing is start making money from day one. Optimize for profit. Do not optimize for like, you know, what the VCs have taught us about, like, you know, insane growth, raise money, and then, you know, corner the market and first to market. That stuff does not work.
That works for the VCs, though. It works for them, but not for the entrepreneur all the time.
They got money to burn.
Exactly. And the other thing is that the VC game is a betting game, right? They have to bet in 40, 50 companies, hope that one or two will make it, and that accounts for all the failures. But you as an individual, you cannot do that with your life. You can't keep betting on different things. Like you said, you will get burnt out. Yeah. So those is the VC advice all the time. That's something that people don't understand. Their incentives are so different sometimes from the entrepreneurs. It's definitely an alignment, but only in certain types of businesses.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's where a lot of people need to start with, okay, generating money from day one, right? Like optimize for that, right? And then you got to find, like, in terms of getting that free traffic, like Instagram is free. We got our first couple customers off my Instagram story. Instagram is free. Twitter is free. Reddit is free. LinkedIn is free. TikTok is free. You know, like that's great.
And let's jump into that. Speaking of that, that's a great segue to our next topic, which is LinkedIn. So you've gone up on LinkedIn, right? You have 150,000 followers you just crossed right now?
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How does it feel to have such massive influence on LinkedIn and such huge followership?
It's like right in line with the life I want to build. You know, like I have an audience that I built deep trust with, that I'm constantly adding value to, and that I've built like some of the best friendships of my life out of, right? So to me, LinkedIn and what I've been able to build there is like a really keystone to the life I want to build in terms of freedom and being able to travel and kind of work from anywhere, because that audience is there.
Very engaged audience on LinkedIn. Most people only use LinkedIn to apply for jobs, right? Is that enough? If not, what do you think they're leaving on the table by not doing more on LinkedIn beyond just applying for jobs?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just comes down to like, what do you want out of life, right? Like, I know a lot of people that don't even use their LinkedIn. They make, 400 or 500K a year. You know, like it just depends on where you are. Now, if you have something to say and you feel like you're courageous enough to actually say it, then yeah, you should be creating content on LinkedIn, because every month on LinkedIn, people are getting 10 billion views combined. The 1% of people that are creating content on LinkedIn are getting 10 billion views shared across themselves, right? And so LinkedIn is a content deficient platform. People are mostly in work mode and they know that their bosses are watching, so they don't want to create content. They don't want to actually put themselves out there because they don't want it to affect their careers. So if you can find a way to put yourself out there, you are now one of literally 1% of 800 million people that are educating and bringing value to the content on the platform, right? And so LinkedIn, I mean, my LinkedIn Revenue Accelerator is literally built just for that, because what I realized is most people don't even want to quit their jobs. It just hit me recently. Like, I was listening to some calls, like, these people don't want to quit their jobs. They just want more options. They want more freedom. They want to be at a point where if their boss is giving them hell at work and ruining their mental health, they want to be able to step away for a month, recover, take 2 months, find a better job, and keep going without losing their lifestyle. That's what people want. They want options.
And
right?
speaking of that, like, you help people achieve that now because you've even built a LinkedIn brand for yourself. So tell us about how you did that. How did you get to 150,000 followers on LinkedIn? How long did it take you? And what did you have to do to get there?
I mean, it took me longer than it's taking a lot of people now, but, I didn't really care. What happened was I joined Shopify. They taught me in onboarding how to tell really good stories using something called Freytag's Pyramid, Freytag. And Freytag's Pyramid follows this. It's like how movies are written, right? It's like you have your introduction or your hook, and then your rising action, then the climax, then the takeaway, then the falling action, right? And basically I was like, everything is theory until I test it, right? Because there's so much nonsense like, oh, this is like, I don't believe it until I test it. So I made a post on LinkedIn and I only had maybe 1,000 connections at the time, not even followers, just connections. And it got 300,000 views. That doesn't make any sense.
Using freight tax pyramid as a structure.
Using freight tax pyramid as a structure, just as a framework, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. There's not 300,000 people here, right? So I was like, once is luck, so we got to do it twice. So I did another one, kind of same thing. And then this time I tagged 3 skills. I just wanted to see if it would carry and hit our company. And it did. So literally we got like 400,000 or 500,000 views and we started to see our company page grow. I'm getting applications to our program. People are signing up for our masterclass. So I go to the head of marketing. I'm like, turn everything off. Stop. Just stop.
Stop spending money on ads.
Stop spending money. And I literally said, I'm going to post every day at 10 a.m. on LinkedIn indefinitely. That's the one thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to grow. You have to make a commitment to the commitment, not to the result. Not, oh, I want to grow until I hit 100,000. I didn't even think 100,000 was a thing. That was not it. I was like, I've seen proof that there is virality and engagement here. So I'm going to commit to committing to 10 a.m. every day. Whether it goes viral, it doesn't. 2 people show up, 1 person doesn't. It doesn't matter. I will be there at 10 a.m. every day. So I did that for a year. I got to 10,000 followers. I got 4 million views. I'm going, this is insane. 10,000 people is like half of Scotiabank Arena. Like 4 million views is like
what? Like country.
It's like a whole country. It's like a 10th of Canada. I'm like, okay, I wonder what happens if I just keep going. I didn't even change my strategy. I didn't say 10 a.m., 12 p.m. or let me do content calendar. I would show up 9:45. I open my phone. What am I thinking today? I have my freight tax pyramid framework, right? And then the other thing I would do is that if I see viral content, I'm like, oh, how did they structure that? Okay, let me try that and tell my own story, right? And so the second year was just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm noticing. So the second year I get 11 million views and I'm at like 22,000 followers. Then I'm like, I wonder what happens if I use data. I now have all these viral posts. What if I can actually predict which post will go viral based on how it's structured, right? And I looked at my historical trends. When did I get the most followers? Oh, what post was that? And I became a scientist with my own content, right? And so January of 2022, I had 22,000 followers. By September, I had 100,000 followers. And I was growing at like 10,000 followers.
Because you became data-driven with it. And
yeah,
consistent.
I became data-driven.
So not just data,
right.
Using data to hack it and not being consistent, but
No,
maintain
I
that
kept the
consistency.
Exactly. So I tell people it's easier to stack than it is to juggle, right? So I had the 10 a.m. and I just kept doing the 10 a.m. Then I stacked inspiration from other people. Then I stacked data, right? And I kept the 10 a.m. So I was unstoppable because I was already consistent. Yeah. Then I got wiser and I got more efficient. And then basically I went from 11 million views in 2021 and, 22,000 followers to 75 million views in 2022. I mean, it powered everything. Like we did I don't even know how much. It was just coming in. I was training thousands of people every single month. It was insane. And I just stacked all these things, right? And so now I'm again back because the algorithms change because companies, change. So every month, if I see a dip, I'm like, okay, they're changing something. And I got to, again, go learn. Okay, so now on LinkedIn, it's all carousels.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And so I'm like testing carousels. Okay, if I do it this way, if I do it that way, I had 2 go viral. I'm like, okay, I got it. Then I just started this weekend, I pumped out 7 or 8 carousels because I now understand the formula. And the last one last week got 600,000 views. I'm tagging companies like, hey, here are 7 AI powered. I start getting brand deals. They're like, yo, you're tagging our company. We're getting traffic. I remember I did a post last week for a company. They got 11,000 hits on their website. They're like, yo. This is better than our ads.
When can we get the next one, bro?
So
I love it.
I basically you just kept going.
So in summary, 1, be consistent. 2, be data driven. And then 3, adapt, right?
Yes, you have to adapt.
Great entrepreneurs do all 3. So who should be thinking about it in this way? Like, I talked to people about this. Like, one of my friends, he took our programs. He was a security guard before he started at SkillHat. He was driving Uber. In 6 months, he got his first business analyst internship because we trained him as a BA. Then he got a product management job. Now he's doing my dream job. He's a product manager for Toronto Raptors, working on the Raptors like membership apps, and like he's building like he's building NFTs to support the strategy of the Toronto Raptors with regards to authenticating jerseys and Web3s. I'm like, dude, this is insane. Why does nobody know what you're doing? You were a security guard when we picked you up. He's like, I don't know what to say, you know, like, why would I even go talk about it? I'm just doing the work, right? So who should be doing content creation and telling the stories of their work? You talked about why. Well, remind them what the why is, and then remind them who should be doing that.
I mean, the first why is like options, right? Like, if you have personal credibility, someone just said reframe personal branding as personal credibility. If you can tell your story and create your own little audience, you will always have options. People will find you. You will attract opportunities. I became a startup advisor not because I know what startup advising is. Someone messaged me one day, do you want to advise for our startup? I'm like, what kind of advice do you want? Like, I don't even know what's happening right now. They're like, oh, we'll pay you and give you X number of dollars in stocks. I'm like, what's happening? You know, I had to go read a book. Like, what is startup advising? You know, but you can attract because you have an audience, right? And then the other thing is, yes, you are, you know, in a position today, but we're seeing it. 200 and some thousand people laid off because the position is no longer needed. You will always have a backup plan. I have no fear. I told my boss in November of last year, I was like, listen, just so you know, I no longer need to be here. I'm here because I want to be here. She's like, okay. Like, no, I just want you to know.
You fucking asshole.
You know? So it's like being able to just have a backup plan at all times, right? And then the final thing is you will always be able to create new streams of income. You will always be able to create new streams of income.
Because you have the audience.
You have the audience. Attention is the currency of this generation. If I get attention, look at what Mr. Beast is doing. The guy starts a burger joint. 100,000 people show up. Why?
For burgers, bro. That's
for burgers. They drove by 10 burger joints to get to the burger, you know? So the same thing with Keith Lee right now on TikTok. Kevin Hart is calling him, hey, come review my food, right? Like, all of these people have attention, right? And you will always be able to spin up new streams. So in terms of who should do it, honestly, anyone who believes that they want to create other streams of income and have freedom should be creating content. Anyone who feels like, you know what, like, I have friends that they don't even want to touch content, right? They make X number of dollars, maybe as software engineers. They're very smart in terms of real estate, 4 or 5 properties, and they're very smart in terms of stocks, right? For the rest of us, we have to go find our own thing. I said to someone, my LinkedIn is more valuable than my real estate. I said that to someone once. And I explained it as, in 1 year on LinkedIn, I remember there was 1 year I did $330,000 on LinkedIn revenue.
Like pure LinkedIn revenue from brand deals, or LinkedIn as a channel to get
combined.
Into? Okay,
combined revenue, my brand deals, my business, my personal, everything.
All as direct from LinkedIn. Yeah, got you.
Okay. My house is not printing $330K a year.
Tell me about it, bro. Real estate today in Canada is way overrated. The capital gains were there the last 4 or 5 years. Right now, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Good luck.
It's slowed down. Not just it's slowed down, but okay, you need $50K tomorrow. Okay, go and get it. Exactly. Are you going to sell your house? Like, no.
Where are you going to live, liquid. Bro? Where are you going to live?
Yeah, exactly.
My house was worth $400K. Now it's worth $800K. Great. Sell it. What are you going to do? The next house is going to be worth $800K again.
Exactly.
Where are you going to live, bro?
Right. So it's the liquidity of it, right? So I'm going like, okay, it's not necessarily about becoming a millionaire. That's not the point. The point is you have options. What do billionaires have? Options. I can fly private, or I can fly, like, it's the options that make life so worthwhile, right? And I think that's anyone that has a story and that wants some sort of freedom backup plan should be creating content.
I think that was great. I think that was inspiring to make it clear. I think most people don't understand why. And even sometimes I myself don't have a clear picture of why. I just know it's the right thing to do. I don't think about it too much. I'm seeing the results. But stopping and thinking about it is something that you've done. I'm sure you do a lot because you're very introspective and you're coaching people on this. So this is great. I don't do personal branding coaching. I do like technical training coaching. And then I say, go do personal branding stuff. Go watch Tobi's video. Just do it. Just do it. It'll help you. And people don't understand why. Right? So I think this helps a little bit. So time to let the cat out the bag. This is my favorite part I'm excited about. You're taking a bold step that I'm excited about for you. You're joining us. So welcome to the good side. So I'd love for you to share with the audience. Tell us about what you're doing next.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, my goal has always been freedom, time freedom, money freedom, right? So even in joining Shopify, it was, okay, I need to get into Shopify. I need to get around some good entrepreneurs so that I can one day walk away from corporate. And so I set a goal. I was like, okay, by the time I'm 30, I want to be done with corporate. By the time I'm 30, I want to be doing my own thing. And so last year was a really good year, and me and my wife went to Europe for a month, and we did like 5 countries, and we just kind of like lived. And on the way back, I just looked at her. I was like, yeah, I think this is the year. Like, I'm going to quit my job. And I'm like, we're going to quit. And so I basically set a really long like runway, which is always my advice. Like, don't you underestimate what you can do in like a year or 2 or 3, right? And so I had the LinkedIn, audience already. All I had to figure out, how do I replace our full-time income with this income? Because I hate risk. Again, back to my personality. I hate risk, and I do not want to. I don't have parents to move into their basement and start over. Okay, so I'm gonna keep my lifestyle, and I gave myself a huge runway. And I want to quit my job next summer. And then I told my team in like November. I told my boss. I told my colleagues, like, hey, like next summer, and that's the third thing, tell people. It automatically gives you all the accountability you need. So the whole time I'm going, okay, I got till May, right? I got till May, right? And it's top of mind. And then I have a countdown on my phone, right? It's counting down 200 days, 199.
Oh, you got that too.
Yeah. So every day I'm being reminded, or I'm working towards this goal. So I set a date, right? May 31st. So May 31st is going to be my last day in corporate. I'm going to go full time on building businesses, building programs, helping companies, helping people on LinkedIn, and honestly, just do whatever I want. Like, I don't even have like a 4-year plan. I don't have hey, no, I just want the freedom to find a problem, use my skill, build a solution, use my skill, right? Like generate revenue. And then be able to travel the world with my wife and my friends. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're super excited for it. Probably going to move to Europe, just like see what life is like there. But it's been a good journey. It took a lot longer than I expected. Honestly, I remember telling my parents at like 20, like, I want to be retired by like 24, and it takes longer than you expect, right? But if you're patient with your progress, and you're persistent with your vision, just be patient with your progress, but be persistent with your vision. Eventually you'll get there. And I got there a year early. It's late, but I got there a year early. I'm turning 29, and I'm going to be out of corporate and making more than I was making working full time anyway. So I'm pumped.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thanks, bro.
I'm excited for you to go on this journey. I've been an entrepreneur full time since August 2021. So under 2 years now. Right now this podcast will be released probably 1st of June 2023. We're shooting this right now May 8th. So so you've had it in your resignation notice. You're actually officially done May 31st. Again, that's the announcement we just made. So congrats. I'm excited to see this happen for you. I'll tell a story about my entrepreneurship decision, just kind of very similar to yours. I had to commit, right? From a young age, I just knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur. He's an entrepreneur. So growing up, it was cool to see him go from working at the bank. He was head of tech in Lead Bank in Nigeria.
Nice.
And then he just started doing stuff on the side, like coming up with like tech. And so I saw that, and I saw him get really rich. We moved to a big ass house in Nigeria from a flat. We started flying around the world. We came to Canada. I'm like, this is dope. Like, I want to be in business. So from a young age, that was my inspiration. My dad.
Yeah.
And then a couple of failed businesses later, I realized what you said about follow your own journey, figure out what you're passionate about. Bro, I started a biotech business. I know nothing about biotech. I found a product. It was a product that helped chickens lay more eggs. Harder eggs, better eggs. I took it to Nigeria. I told you about this. It was Aquanova. And I was selling biotech products for farming in Ogun State. I was driving to Ogun and Ibadan, speaking Yoruba, talking to farmers. And I'm like, as I got more successful, I was out in the sun with chickens. I left Canada to do this. And after a while, I was like, nah. I don't want to be in Ibadan, Ogun my whole life, right? I wasn't getting inspired by my customers and all that. So came back here, started on the side doing training. And I'm like, this is what I love, right? My passion is to help other people become successful by learning skills, help people of color and women. And so I remember I told myself I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I gave myself a date as well, right? But it was like a flexible date. I knew I would do it in a certain time. So right now I'm 32 years old. I wanted to do it at like 31, 30. So similar to you. And so I had a few things I had to get done, right? So the practical stuff that you haven't mentioned yet, but we talked about offline, is before you quit your job, in addition to actually having the business and customers and validation, which is the first critical thing that makes it even possible, there's other things that you might consider. For example, real estate, right? In Canada and the US, it's a lot easier to buy property or get a car loan or lower rates on certain things when you have a full-time job, because now the bank will give you the loan because they see you as less risk. So that's one thing you might want to consider. If you want to buy a house and you have a job, do that first, right? Buy what you can as far as real estate, because once you quit that job, they're going to look for you to have 2 years of history with that business to give you that same loan that you would have got just with the offer letter from a company, right? And so I told my wife about it. She's like, what? You want to quit your job? We just got married a month ago.
Yeah.
We just got married. Prove to me that this is a good decision. So she made me do a whole presentation to her on why we had to quit a job. And how to use the metaphor she would understand. I said, we had just started Skillhat on the side. And it was printing cash. Like, I was making $20K a month from my business, and I was making about $10K a month from my job. So I'm like, first of all, we've already replaced the business income. Second of all, I was actually running ads, right? And I had a CRM with 1,000 people knocking on the door saying I wanted, and I couldn't spend enough time calling them. In fact, I was actually calling leads at lunch at work, and then all evening. I didn't have time to actually follow up enough with my leads. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I did the math, right? At Skillhat, we charge $1,500 a pop for our, that was then, now it's like $2,200. But it was like, oh, if I have to replace my business income, all I have to do, I wanted to make $100K a year for myself, for my business, right?
Yeah.
And so I did the math and said, to make that $100K, all I have to do is get 2 more students every single week. And I remember being in the car, I'm like, all I have to do is get 202 people every single week, and I have a business. I was in the car, I was like, no, this is sick, I can do it. I'm doing it right now. And I was yelling at myself in the car. I remember I dropped my wife at the grocery store, and I was doing the math, and when I saw the number, I'm like, this is it, this is what I gotta do to quit my job. I was going nuts. And then I went hard. I blocked all my colleagues at work on LinkedIn, and I started going hard on LinkedIn content, right? And the short time I ramped up and I quit. So since that time, it's been an amazing journey. Skillhat has grown to a valuation right now is like 2.4 million as far as valuation based on 3x revenue to get the valuation. And we have 17 employees right now, which is a whole thing that you don't want to get into as far as how we built the business is so different from how you're building your business. It runs on people and process, and the good thing is it doesn't run on capital. It runs on ideas and great marketing and content as far as inbound. But anyway, the point is it's been a great experience for me to be an entrepreneur. As far as the most important numbers to me is the impact, right? We've helped our alumni create over $7 million in alumni income, which I would never be able to do if I was working full time.
Yeah.
We've helped our employees make money as far as their jobs.
Of course.
And the average alumni is making 45K income in addition to their previous income. They've increased their income by 45K. So the impact is just astounding that you can make. And if you're doing all this stuff on the side right now, you're gonna be dangerous. You're gonna be dangerous when you're doing this full time. So very excited to see you do this. And then congrats. Man. So we gotta close here because I know you have to run. But where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
The one place that I am every day, which is on LinkedIn. So I think my handle is the Tobi Oluwole, but it's just Tobi Oluwole on LinkedIn, and I will be there for as long as I can remember. You can also check out Paid in Full, so the3skills.com/paid-in-full, or you can go to tobioluwole.com, sign up for the same newsletter, get access to coaching and all that.
Fantastic. It's great to have you here. As far as my close, for those of us who are listening, SkillHat trains people who are really motivated in tech skills and places them in tech roles at the best companies in the world. You can hit us up, skillhat.ca, book a call with me at bookings.skillhat.ca. We can help you get into product management, project management and Scrum, software development, design, and business analysis. Tobi, it's been great having you today. I look forward to seeing your success. I'm happy you made the announcement here on our pod. I want exclusive rights. You cannot make this announcement on anybody else's podcast till it gets released. No, I'm kidding. But for those who are watching, thank you. It's been a great one. Thank you, Tobi.
Thank you, bro.
All right.